First thing to address, no pun intended, is that you can see it is, well, you can't see that it's warm, but I can feel that it's warm. I know there was some comments in my last update about how cold it must be down in the basement. It's actually pretty comfortable down here. I was vacuuming a few minutes ago, so I am a little worked up, but I am sporting a short sleeve shirt, so and I'm not cold. So that aside, let's get into the first thing I want to show you. So the first thing I want to show you is the progress I've made on this area here, the Greatland Sugar Refinery kit. It's not complete, but I've been getting a lot of work done. It's pretty much, the exterior is pretty much complete, and I've done all the window trimming. I used my technique. I'll show a clip of that after this, of sanding the windows to get a frosted look. So you can see the one with the shade here is not frosted and this one is, and I use sandpaper. I'm not sure what grit, but it's very fine grit, and I just sand it and then it looks frosted. So it, from the exterior, once these are lit, I think you'll see it more. You can see there's light coming through from behind here, so you can see this one is frosted, this one isn't, and it just adds a different look, adds some variety. And I think on these structures that have tons of the same window, for me it's about variety. So not doing the same thing all the way through. This window here actually has yellow, it's probably hard to see it, but it has yellow film on it. It's like I use for most of my windows, unless they come with the kit. Like these are all kit provided, but if I don't, I use essentially transparency film for printing that you would use just for a regular printer. And so this is a yellow tinted one that I found in, I don't know, somewhere along the line. So I use it to change just the look of some of them. I'm not sure if I used that film for any others. Oh, I used it for the bottom as well. So that door underneath. And again, I think once these are lit, you'll see more of the obvious variety. Otherwise, it's just very subtle. But I think the face of that looks pretty decent. It doesn't look all consistent. I did add some of the brick fill-ins here. I did one thing, I can't remember. I added brick behind the frame of the window on one or two of them. Now I'm not finding it. It might have been on a different structure. I can't remember. So yeah, just variety I think is key. So that's what I did on this one. If I open up the roof of this, I've got the floors that's just cardboard in there to separate, and there's one separating the first and second floor. And again, I kind of really want to light these structures. The lighting in my basement is not the greatest. There's nothing directly over here. I have this one here, and then I've got a few up there, so I think I need one over here, and it probably wouldn't hurt to have one up here, although I've got these two rather large ones, but the refrigerator kind of blocks a lot of the light. So I think this corner for some reason is dark, probably just because the refrigerator blocks some of the light, and there's no light in this whole section. So if I light the structures, I think this little corner will come to life, and that will probably be more of a priority than lighting any of the other kits on the layout, honestly. And this is kind of, I don't know, it's one of my favorite sections of the layout, so that will hopefully be in the works down the road. I did add a bunch of window treatments on these two. I've got a couple of shades on the top of those. On the top of that one, I frosted a bunch of them. And these windows are a little bit harder to see. I added shades. You can kind of see from the exterior. And again, it's not lit. This one's like almost completely shaded. That one is completely shaded. That one I can't tell. I think that one's completely shaded. So I tried again to add some variation and variety as I knock over this smokestack or chimney, whatever it's called, which I actually had a lot of problems with. I didn't assemble it correctly. There was a piece missing, or that I didn't put in to hold it in the middle, and I forget, I used some of the Zapca and I used some of the canopy, and so it's kind of permanent. I can't take it apart without probably damaging it. And I didn't like the lines that you could see that went straight down between the pieces. It's in 4 pieces. It would have been nicer if it was 2 pieces, but that's what I got. So what I tried to do is make it look like it had been concrete, like, I don't know what the correct terminology is, but essentially covered in concrete, and then part of that concrete had fallen off over the years and you could see the exposed brick. I know that's a technique that's used in construction. I'm not sure what it's called, if it's even used on smokestacks, but I've seen it on buildings or other structures. So I tried to do that. It doesn't really look good. I probably will get a Walters kit. I think they have one that comes with 2 of them. I'm not sure how tall they are, but I like the look of the structure because I don't have one anywhere else on the layout, so I kind of feel like I need one. It came with the Greatland, but I just assembled it poorly. I tried to weather it. It needs some help weathering, but you can see this line. I think I need to add like more lines of weathering to kind of disguise the fact that there's this seam line there. I'm not sure if I'm going to bring out more of the brick color on it. I just kind of got frustrated and used oil paint, so I kind of got frustrated and kind of wiped the whole thing to kind of mute it down and make it all more or less consistently colored. The top is a little bit darker. It still needs to go darker, and I obviously need to get on the inside of that. So this thing is kind of, I got to salvage that. But I got all the windows in on these structures. The roof on this doesn't sit fully in there without it just falling down. The sides are too wide, so I kind of have to glue that in order for it to stay. I need to do the floors on this though, like I did on the back structure. So that's the update for that. This one has come a long way. I forget what I did on this one. I have to do some kind of roof detail on this, and this is kind of stuck in there. I added a floor because I wanted to keep the door open so it has, you know, kind of a full interior, and I painted the back black so that way if you were to look in there it'll look finished. I think it's probably gonna go here. I don't know about the oil tanks. Those oil tanks, I feel like they're on like every layout, and I obviously need to weather them, but I'm not sure if I want them at the front of my layout like this right there as almost a focal point, but I like the way it works with the little structure. So that's kind of to be determined, but it's not bad. And then coming over here, I worked on this structure. I kind of do like its position here. It's been there for a little while now, and I kind of like it. I like the way the doors came out on this side. I think they look great. But you can see I've got the seam where the lift out is, which is okay. Not my favorite. I may put some kind of shrubs or things here that would cover over that. When I lift out, it just lifts off with the top, you know, the lift out part. I put somewhat of an interior in there, if you can see. I don't know, it's probably too dark. The roof is not on, but it's just all closed up. You can't really see this side of things, so I didn't get fancy with opening the doors. I did on this part just because it essentially, you know, is almost the focal point of this section here. But I just love the way this shot looks. It's come a long way in a short amount of time. Another little structure update. I pulled out the water tower that I had from when I was a kid. This is probably one of the first things I had ever gotten with my original train set under the tree when I was 8 or 9. And I figure I might salvage that and put it in its back corner here. This little corner is still not figured out, but that's okay. I kind of want to add another track here off of this one here, but I'm not sure. So those are the structure updates. I don't think I worked on anything else, but I'm going to be working on a billboard and a few other things. So let's go to the workbench. So at the workbench, this is actually the piece that I forgot to put because I got too, I don't know what the word is, but I got too involved in building that smokestack without putting this piece in, which would have braced and held the pieces together so I could kind of have a brace. It kept falling apart on me. That piece would have made things a lot easier. I might have gotten a better seam. I still can't help but think that you would see the seam in between the 4 pieces though, so I'm telling myself that to make myself feel better that I didn't mess that part of the kit up, but I'm still having enough confidence that I think I can salvage it somewhat. I need to look at more prototypes so I can kind of go in one direction, because right now I feel like I'm kind of just trying different things to see if something works that I like. And I do that a lot, and that's fine, but I think with something I'm unfamiliar with, like a smokestack or chimney, whatever you want to call that thing, I think I need some reference. So the other thing, I've got the handrails for the structures that I've been working. I got some wooden fence work that I need to put out, paint it and put out, and then I've got these little lights from Tiki or Titchy. I like to call it Tiki. I'm not sure. Tiki Train Group sounds better than Titchy. Or Tishy. That sounds even worse. Ugh. So these lights are going to be cool to put on. So I've got those, and then I've got these pieces here. I've got some other stuff. I've got wood pieces that I am going to assemble a billboard. So look forward to that in the upcoming update. And I'm going to try to keep this update short. Long story, I had pretty much filmed the entire update earlier and a couple weeks ago, and it just things changed too quickly, so I'm kind of redoing it on the fly here. So let me show you the next thing, and then we'll go from there. So there's not a lot of resource online about these 44 tonners. I've seen, I guess, enough information, but there's a few questions that I have yet been able to answer or find answers for. This is the one I got, or this is the shell that I just got with the locomotive that I have on my layout that I swapped out. So the one that's on my layout with the New Haven shell, that's the new motor. It's the single motor. This is the double motor. It's actually a dummy now. And the 2 motors are up here, and this is the destroyed one. So that's a work in progress, or that's a project down the road to get this one working again and to repaint the shell or find a new shell. I tried to, this decoder was in there, and the harness, I cut one of the wires too short, and I did some research on doing that, fixing it, and I just didn't feel like that was going to be a possibility. So I have on order a set of like 5 Digitrax harnesses that will fit into this decoder, and then I'm planning on hard wiring this decoder into the 44 ton that's on the layout. And I'm hoping, from everything I hear, I'm hoping that makes it run smoother. Again, I'm not finding definitive answers. I know it sounds like the motor's vibrating. I don't think there's cracked gears. Everything looks smooth, but it doesn't sound smooth, if that makes sense. So I'm hoping, I'm not sure. A part of me wants to wire the decoder into the PC board or PCB board or whatever you call it, the light board that came with the locomotive, and try that out first, but I have a feeling that's not going to yield enough results. And I haven't found any definitive. I think I heard of or read that one person had mentioned that they had hardwired a decoder into one of these locomotives. So I'm just going to probably tackle that and just hardwire it directly into the locomotive. and take out the light board completely and see if that makes any difference. It's kind of like, why go halfway if, you know, you're not even sure the result? So I'm just going to go all the way, and if there's going to be any improvement at all with this locomotive, that would be it, is I think to bypass. I'm pretty sure that's a doable thing. I don't see why it wouldn't be. All my blue boxes don't have those light boards in them. They're like a, I don't want to open up the shell, but it's kind of, you know, one of these kinds of things. It's not exactly like this, but it's essentially one of these kind of boards that's in this locomotive that you'd wire the decoder to. And it's got all the pins and everything. It's DCC ready. I mean, it came DCC equipped, but it just has a light board that the decoder is then installed into. That looks separate. It's weird. If you know these Bachmans, you know what I'm talking about. And I've heard that Bachmann is known for inconsistencies. So, you know, one person's 44 ton may have a different board than I have. And, you know, so that's just confuses the whole thing. So I think when I get the harness, I'm going to tackle it and just hardwire the sucker in there. And if the thing is going to run any better than it currently is, that will do it. Otherwise, there probably is something wrong with the motor or the gears, and that will be, you know, more investigations. So let me show you real quick what it looks and sounds like. So this is the locomotive I'm talking about. Actually, I think I screwed the shell in slightly to hopefully mitigate some of that vibration, but it didn't work. So let's fire it up and show you. Use my cheat sheet. I don't remember all of the programming numbers here. So you can hear that's at speed step 1. And it's kind of jumpy. Put it in reverse. It's the DCC equipped Bachmann. It's not like the new one. It's not the $250 model, but it's an older one. I'm not sure the age. So you can see I'm hand holding the camera. You can see it's kind of stuttering. Hopefully you can see it's not completely smooth, but it's running. It's at speed step 8. That's actually not too bad. That's a nice creep. I don't know whether these Bachmann decoders, and I have not found really any information on these things, whether they're standard DCC stuff. No, it just died. That's probably the track. I'm gonna turn it off. I haven't found really any information on the CV programming or any of this stuff. So sorry, I had to take a sip of the old coffee. Yeah, I'm just really not sure. So I want to get a Digitrax in there. I'm familiar with that line of decoders. And I think if I just take the light board out, hardwire this sucker, the LEDs that are in there are terrible. You can't even see them. Let's see if I can get one on. Well, it's not getting power now, so, well, now it is. I don't know if the headlights might be reversed. Yeah, so you can see it's on, but if you step back, you can barely see that it goes on. So I don't mind getting rid of those LEDs. They're terrible. Even if you take the shell off, it's not like they're not correctly in alignment there. They're just not good. So I'm gonna rewire this sucker. Hopefully that makes things run smoother. I've heard that helps a lot. I've heard that you can cut the caps off, and that was the whole rabbit hole that I went on or down to find which caps are that you can cut off. Somebody did one on YouTube. They cut them off. They didn't notice a bit of difference with that noise, if that's even the same noise. So the whole cap issue with these, I think is a moot point. I don't see how that's gonna do anything. So That's enough about this little guy. Okay, so I've been spending about a month here trying to figure out how to do operations on my layout using a computer program or car cards and waybills. And car cards and waybills, I don't think is for me. JMRI, I couldn't get it to work initially, and switch lists was driving me nuts. So I came up with my own system, and long story short, that helped me learn how to set up JMRI a little better. One thing I noticed about JMRI is you have, when you set up a location, you have the cars you can have going to and from that location, but then you also have to set up the individual spurs, so that way those are in sync with that. So here for this individual one, I have these specific cars going to or from that location, but you also have to, you just have to set it in the spur as well. And this is essentially how the program is designed, so that you could have one industry like Forstmann clocks and then have multiple spurs with a variety of different cars servicing each spur. So for example, this, I only have one spur here, so I want all of the cars that the industry as a whole services, so that one spur is going to service all of the same. But if I had multiple spurs, maybe one spur doesn't service the tank cars. Maybe there's a dedicated tank car spur. So that's why that makes sense. And that did not make sense to me for the longest time. So I was running into issues where trains were too short and they weren't getting spurs, or essentially what I was considering a siding or an industry, wasn't getting serviced because I hadn't set it up in here under the spur. So I'm sure most people know that, but that was one problem. So I have it working. I have different kinds of trains and things. One thing that I'm running into as one person functioning a small layout is, you set up some kind of system, whatever it may be, whether it's car cards, waybills, JMRI operations, whatever. Those are essentially rules, and with rules come limitations. And so I don't like the idea that, well, it's a double-edged sword, that whatever the computer says is what should be on the actual layout. So if this boxcar is sitting here, it should be in sync with what JMRI is telling me where that car should be sitting. And that's great, but if I, for some reason, move something around in real life and then don't set it out in JMRI, there's going to be inconsistencies, and that idea kind of drives me nuts. But on the flip side, I kind of like how this tells me exactly where everything is out here in real life. So that's kind of what I'm struggling with. I think what I'm going to do in the future is continue my monthly updates, and then do probably an operating session episode. I don't know if I can keep up once a month, but I will start probably putting out those if I can get JMRI, working the way I'm satisfied with. If I decide to scrap JMRI completely, I may do some other kind of system, so that viewers can kind of tell what is in my brain and what's going to happen on the layout as it's happening. And I don't have a format for that yet, other than just, recording an op session. Don't mind the coffee, but yeah, so look forward to that. Hopefully I will do that at least once, coming up probably this month. So that's it. So stick around, keep an eye out for those, or at least one, and we'll see how it goes. And hope everybody had a great New Year, Christmas. Enjoy the rest of your January. And coming up right after this is going to be some just general train running, probably from various tryout ops that I've done over the last month, trying to figure stuff out. But nothing is coherent in that it would make sense from an operation standpoint. So enjoy the trains running. Have a great January. Take care.